We ready? Okay. Good morning,
Yeah, now we
everyone.
are.
I'm
Okay.
Bill. Good morning, everyone. I'll begin. I'm Bill Harris. I'll be chairing today's meeting of the Virginia Gas and Oil Board. It's Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. And the first order of business is for the board to review and approve the remote attendance resolution for board members that will be attending the meeting remotely. We have three board members. One is Mr. Willie Cochran, who will be attending. He's more than 60 miles from the meeting site. And the other is Bruce Prather, who's also more than 60 miles from the meeting site. And the other is Donnie Ratliff, who's out of town attending a conference. And I'm told we should be able to do all three of these with one vote. We do have four members here, so we do have a quorum present that we can vote on this at one time. If not, we can back up and do this individually. So do I have a motion approving, and I can read these individual resolutions if need be, but I do think they meet the requirement that we should be able to approve their attendance. So do I have a motion from any board member to approve their attendance and being able to vote today's meeting? Fine, there's a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Fine, thank you. We have 2 seconds, but yeah, we do have a second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes, fine, okay. So we have a motion and second, and it has been approved that we admit these people attending remotely. So welcome to the other folks. And so with that said, let's let the folks here and the folks attending remotely, we'll start with the folks here. If you will introduce yourselves, and we'll start to my right with Ms. Quillen, and welcome to, I know you've been here remotely a couple of times, but welcome to being here in person. So I'll let you introduce yourself.
Mary Quillen, public member.
Okay, and I'm Bill Harris, a public member, and I'll serve as the chair for today.
Gus Jansen, public member.
Rita Surratt, public member.
Okay, fine. Thank you. And the folks at home?
Bruce Prather, I represent the oil and gas industry on the board.
Willie Cochran, I'm the Virginia Energy member.
And Donnie Ratliff, and I represent the coal.
Okay, was that everyone? Thank you, folks. So, yes.
Daryl Kuntz with the Office of Attorney General.
Fine, thank you, and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, okay. We'll just move on then, and the board will receive public comments. Were there any comments? Okay. Having none, we'll move on to the item number 2. We have a petition from Pocahontas Gas LLC for repooling under Oakwood Cobit methane gas fields to address acreage changes. The unit is Y32. The docket number is VGOB 97-0318-0573-02. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Mark Swartz and Kelly Berry.
Okay, I don't see any others, so Mr. Swartz, you may proceed.
Okay, Sarah, could you put Kelly under oath for us, please?
Mrs. Berry, you swear and affirm that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Kelly, could you state your full name for us, please?
Kelly Berry,
Who do you work for?
Pocahontas Gas LLC.
And are you here in support of the petition to repool Y32 today?
Yes,
And the reason for the repooling is acreage changes, is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. Did all of the acreages on all tracks change, or were there any that did not?
Track 6 acreage did not change.
But all the other tracks identified in the tract ID did change.
Yes.
Okay. What did you do to notify people that we were going to be having a meeting to repool, to hear our petition to repool this unit today?
We mailed a copy of the notice by certified mail, return receipt requested to all parties, and we also published notice in the Bluefield Daily Telegraph.
Okay. When did you mail?
August 25th, 2023.
And you said you mailed a notice, but did you also mail the application and the exhibits at the same time?
Yes,
Okay. And when you published, you did publish just the notice probably. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Okay. And that was published, I think, Bluefield Daily Telegraph again, yes?
That is correct. September 12th, 2023.
Great. And did you provide your certificate with regard to mailing and the proof of publication to the division?
Yes.
Okay. What percentage of the CBM do we have under lease in this unit?
51.1400%.
Okay. And the portion that is pooled is what?
The unleased ownership is 41.8600%.
Okay, it's actually probably 49%. Yes, 49.86.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the lease percentage, I had an error. That should have been 59.1400%.
Okay, so let's do that again. So the lease percentage is 59.1400, and the adverse is what?
41.8600%.
Okay. And this acreage, it's an 80-acre Oakwood 2 unit, correct?
That's correct.
And judging from the Gas and Oil Board number that was assigned to the docket here, looks like this was originally pooled in 97.
That's correct.
Are there any producing wells in this unit?
There are no producing wells in this unit.
Okay, the production that comes into this unit and is distributed comes from where?
This would be allocated panel production.
From what is it, from a sealed gob unit?
A portion of the western portion of the unit is contained within a sealed gob unit.
Okay, and which sealed gob is that?
Buchanan number 1, sealed gob unit 1.
Okay, and I take it the acreage of the piece of Y32 that is within the sealed gob unit, that acreage has not changed.
Correct.
So the allocation of production from the sealed gob to the Y32 unit, that allocation percentage has remained constant, and we don't need to modify the sealed gob order, correct?
No, we do not.
Okay, we're just looking at the distribution of that allocated production to the 80-acre unit owners. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let's look at, come down here. Provided beginning at PDF page 8 and exhibit B, and that would be a list of everybody, all owners in the unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the reason for that is you've notified all of them because of the acreage change.
That's correct.
Okay. And then at PDF page 19, you've given us a well cost estimate, which you then in the next exhibit page, PDF page 20, you have used to calculate the the cost per unit, and there's a number of units here, and allocated the cost across the units that comprise the total of the panels in the unit, and you've come up with what total cost allocation number?
The total cost allocation for unit Y32 is $1,379,003.86.
And that's a little over 12% of the total to all panels, correct?
Yes.
And the next page is the map showing the panels and showing the unit and the portion within the sealed column, correct?
Yes.
Let's see. Will there be any escrow required going forward?
No, there is no escrow requirement.
And let's go back to PDF page 6. That is that's the tract IDs, and here you have the new percentages for each of the units or each of the tracts within the unit.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then in Exhibit B, have you provided the percent of the unit for each tract and then for each owner if there's more than one owner of a tract?
Yes.
And that would be how you would pay going forward.
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think I have anything else with regard to this petition.
Okay, are there any questions from members of the board?
Just one quick question.
Mr. Jansen?
On the tracks that were impacted, I think you said all the tracks, but track 6 were impacted. Could you give us a little more information on what changed out there that impacted every track in the unit? What caused this acreage change?
Updated mapping of the tracks within the units.
So you had multiple tracks that had to be changed. It wasn't just one because there was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. The original application for pooling for this well, there were no elections brought forward by any one of the unleased parties. Is that correct?
That's correct. There were no previous elections.
Okay, but they have the right to elect again now because of this repooling.
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay. That's all I had, Mr. Harris.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from board members?
Mr. Harris?
Yes, I'm not sure who that.
No, it's Donnie.
Okay, hey, Don.
I just noticed the AFE is not signed. Don't we require a signature on that?
I scanned these. I hadn't noticed that. I thought. It's typed in. It is not signed. So we would need to have a signed AFE.
Okay.
We can get that.
We will provide that.
Okay. If that's acceptable to the board, we should be okay.
Kelly, can you just upload that to the system once you get the signature?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will make sure that Sarah gets that before the board order is approved. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rattler. Any further questions from the board? Okay, we'll entertain a motion for this item.
Motion to approve pending that correction.
Thank you. Second for that?
Second.
Fine. Thank you, Mr. Rattler. Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Bill,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Mr. Pratt.
Yes.
Okay, that Motion passed and that item passed. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item. Pull that one up. Next item is a petition from Pocahontas Gas LLC for disbursement of escrowed funds heretofore deposited with the board's escrow agent. This is docket number VGOB 06-0919-1714-04. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Mark Swartz and Kelly Berry.
Fine. Hearing from no others, Mr. Swartz, you may proceed.
Thank you. Kelly, could you state your name for us again, please?
Kelly Berry.
I'm going to remind you, you're under oath, right?
Yes.
Okay. And are you here on behalf of Pocahontas Gas LLC with regard to a request for a disbursement?
Yes.
And we're asking for a disbursement from B as in boy, G as in George 98. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And the reason for this disbursement, what's happened?
There is an existing royalty division agreement between a prior owner, and we have received a W-9 form from the heir that we are requesting disbursement to.
Okay. And have you provided a copy of the deed or the agreement with regard to the royalty split?
Yes.
And is it a 50-50 agreement?
Yes, it is.
And at PDF page 5, there's a table 1 that you've presented to the board. Have you identified on table 1 the people and or the person and company that are to receive the disbursements?
Yes.
Okay, and there's Tanita Mitchell and Harrison Wyatt LLC. Are those the people?
That is correct.
And you've provided addresses for them that the escrow agent can use to mail or transmit their checks, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And sometimes we have dollar disbursements and sometimes we have percentage disbursements. It looks like this is a percentage disbursement. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And so you've provided the percentage on table 1 that the escrow agent should use to apply to the balance on hand in the escrow account at the time the disbursement is made, and that'll generate the dollar figure, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then the next PDF page is 6, and that you've provided us an updated Exhibit E. And it looks like escrow will still be required after these disbursements are made if this petition is approved. Is that correct?
That is correct. We still have one additional owner who has not returned a W-9 form.
Okay. And what are the acres and the percentage of the unit that are involved with the owner that we're waiting for the W-9?
0.087 acres, and that is 0.148% of the unit.
And then it looks like beginning at PDF page 7, you have provided us with an Exhibit EE, which is the path forward where you've indicated the percentages that will be used to pay the other owners who are not in escrow as we move forward.
That is correct.
Okay. We've had other disbursements from this unit before this request. Is that correct?
Yes, we have.
Okay. If you go to PDF page 16, there's a reconciliation exhibit, Exhibit J. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what have you done there? Have you taken, tried to locate, or have you listed royalty checks since the beginning and then tried to find deposits for those?
Yes, we have compared the royalty deposits made with the bank's records.
It looks like, as I review that, I don't see anything highlighted. So it looks like, is it true that you were able to find a deposit for each check?
That is correct.
Okay. And at the end, which will be PDF page 18, you've done some math on the left-hand side of that last page, correct?
Yes.
And when you compare your math to the June 2023 First Bank and Trust balance, what did you determine?
The balance, the amounts in the escrow account balance, and there is no difference between the balance that we find and the balance that the bank shows.
I see you're in agreement. And I think the last thing we have, well, it's not the last, but nearly the last thing. The next item starting at 19 is actually the split agreement, right?
That is correct.
Okay. And then I guess the split agreement actually included the map, which is the final page, PDF page 23.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I think that's all I have on this disbursement.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the board? Hearing none, Mr. Swartz, do you have anything further?
I do not, thank you.
Okay, I will entertain a motion concerning this item.
Motion to approve.
Fine. Second. Fine, second. Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Ms. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
yes,
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratliff.
Yes.
Okay, this item has been approved then. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Swartz and Ms. Berry. You all have a good day. We'll see you next time, I guess.
All righty.
Okay, let me get situated here. Okay, the next item is our item number 4. It's a petition from Key Rock Energy LLC for the establishment of Key Rock number 3, a seal gob production unit consisting of 401.983 acres for the drilling, development, and production of coal bed methane from a seal gob unit. And number 2, pooling of interests in subject unit. And this is unit Key Rock number 3. The docket number, number 3 for that is to designate the applicant as the unit operator for that unit. The unit is Key Rock number 3. The docket number is VGOB 23-0919-4273. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please identify themselves.
Brady Mullins, attorney for Key Rock and Morgan Tate with Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. No one else seems to have come forward, so you all may proceed.
Mr. Pate, you swear and affirm your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Chair, before we begin, I received an email from staff saying that they, whenever they were reviewing our proposed unit, that they did find a well in this proposed unit producing in the job office. It might be, Mr. Boyd may want to speak to that, but it may be necessary for us to continue this petition until we can address this other well. It's, from my understanding, it's an Intervest well, and there is some plan to plug it, but that has not occurred yet.
Okay, Mr. Boyd, would you like to?
Yes, we went through all the wells in this unit to see if we did identify any other wells that were producing from the Jawbone seam. And we did find the well, the Intervest P-454C, which it is an active well that was verified by the staff that is producing from the Jawbone seam.
Okay, and so that needs to be addressed, I would presume.
The question is, with that, if there's an issue with, the Key Rock well being drilled, because it'll be producing the Jawbone seam gas also.
Yes.
And this well was, and that unit is, where that P54C in the Nora Colbert Field unit, the unit operator is Interbest operator.
And I'm not the expert on these. Is it the division's opinion that we need to have them return?
I guess maybe the issue is that we have an existing unit already established by field rules under the field rules for the production of a CBM well. And now they're asking the board to create another unit which encompasses the same formation, which that may cause a conflict. Is that, you understand?
Yes, sir. And like I said, the plan is to meet with Interbest and try to resolve the situation. This was brought to our attention a week or so ago, and that we've not had to have that meeting yet. And so with the existing unit in place, we would ask that these matters be
continued. Yeah. Well, it's probably too late for 30 days, do you think? Because those items are.
Nothing submitted for the October hearing. If you all want to meet for that one item, or do you think that you have time to even get it clarified down?
I'm curious what we need from Interbest. Would a simple statement from them saying that they no longer intend to produce the well or have plans to plug it suffice, or do they actually need to plug the well for us to proceed?
I think that's the question we have from the staff is.
What's the staff recommendation?
For us, there's, in this situation, I guess where we have the Key Rock, their unit is actually overlapping that.
Yes.
Established.
Yeah,
unit
I
in
got it.
Northfield
Yeah.
Is two wells that can produce Jawbone gas out of that same unit. I guess that's the question.
Has the permit been submitted for the well location yet? So you haven't even submitted the permit, so you got a while to go before that anyway, right?
Sorry, I haven't uploaded most of the items yet.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe 60 days instead of 30. I'm not sure, because items for the next month's agenda have to be in by Friday? Last Friday.
Yeah, not receive anything. So pending on this meeting today, if anything comes out of it, I didn't know if something else needs to come back before the board. We could possibly have in October, but they may need a little bit more time than that anyway. So you do want me to put it on the November? Continue it?
You're going to continue item 5 also?
Yes, sir.
You're going to continue 4 and 5?
Yeah, because five is dependent. Let me just go ahead and continue item 4. So pending your talking with, is that Interbest? Is that who that is? Okay, pending discussions with them, we're going to continue docket item number VGOB 23-0919-4273. That's item number 4. We're also going to continue item number 5. That's docket VGOB 23-0919-4274 for the same reason, for discussions that Key Rock will have with Interbest concerning these mine situations, and hopefully within 60 days that'll be resolved. If not, I'm sure you can let staff know, and we'll try to take care of that.
Yes, sir.
This is for November that you're continuing to November. And if for some reason that you were unable to resolve the problem that has come before these 2 items, would it be possible for you to let Sarah know, since we have so few and we travel so far and come and then have to continue.
Of course.
And so Sarah, is that possible?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll work together. If they don't have everything ready, we'll just put it off to the next month or when they do have it ready. We'll put it off.
Okay, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, so we'll continue items 4 and 5. I've already read the docket numbers. So if you will make those adjustments in your petition list. Okay, we'll move on then to item number 6. Let me change out. Is that it for you all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for attending. Sorry we couldn't accommodate you all today, but we appreciate your realizing and understanding that.
Thank you. Can I give you a quick update?
Yes.
P-Rock is supposed to bring Deep Mine 26 before the board to address the royalty question.
Okay.
We completed title over a month ago, 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And have sent all that title to Phil Stills at ATS for deep plotting.
Okay.
He is still deep plotting it. I assume or hope he will finish that in the next couple of weeks. And so then it will be ready. So I'm hoping that will be on November 4th.
Okay. Okay. Well, good luck with that. Hopefully we can move forward with that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was good seeing you. We'll see you next time. Okay, we'll move on then to item number 6. This is a petition from Intervest Operating LLC for pooling. The unit is VC-6000, 600012. Let me read that again, VC-600012. The docket number is VGOB 23-0718-4266. We'd ask all parties who plan to speak to this to please come forward.
Tim Scott, Larry Reeves, and Jim Ayers for Intervest Operating LLC.
Okay, welcome, Mr. Scott. Anyone else to speak? Okay, hearing from no others, Mr. Scott, you may proceed.
I'll get Sarah to swear these two gentlemen in, please.
Could you repeat the other one's name? I got Mr. Reeves, and what was the other gentleman?
It's James Ayers, Ayers.
I'm sorry, I should have known that, but I did not hear that. I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Reeves and Mr. Ayers, do you swear and affirm that your testimony is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Are we ready? Okay. Are we ready?
Yes, I'm sorry. You may
Okay.
proceed.
That's okay. That's right. Mr. Reeves, please state your name, by whom you're employed, and your job description.
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest as a landman.
Are you familiar with this application?
Yes.
And what field is this unit included in?
Nora Colbed.
How many acres does this unit contain?
58.8.
And I believe we have both large percentage of this lease or this unit is under lease to Intervest. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And anybody who's listed on Exhibit B3, should any of those parties be dismissed from this application?
Yes. No
Okay.
dismissals.
And is it just unknowns on this one? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How was notice provided to the parties listed on Exhibit B3?
In the Bluefield Daily Telegraph.
When was that publication?
Publication was August 25th.
Okay.
2023.
Thank you. And we provided proof of publication to the board.
Yes, we have.
So we do not have an escrow requirement. Is that correct?
No, we do not have escrow.
And Intervest is authorized to transact business in the Commonwealth. Is that also correct?
Yes.
And there's a bond on file. Is that right?
Yes.
And if you were able to reach an agreement with those parties listed on Exhibit B3, what lease terms would you offer?
$5 per acre per year for a paid-up lease at 1/8 royalty.
And you think that's reasonable compensation for a lease in this area?
Yes.
And what percentage of the gas estate does Intervest have in the lease presently?
99.82142857%.
And that does include tracts and Intervest is the fee simple owner of the minerals. Is that correct?
Yes, it does.
Okay. What percentage of the gas estate are you seeking to pool today?
0.17857143%.
And you're asking the board to pool these unleased interests. Is that correct?
Yes.
And let me ask you, I'm going to step backwards just a second. You're continuing your efforts to locate these unknown parties. Is that right?
Yes, we are.
And that's an ongoing process with Intervest?
Correct.
With any unknowns, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And are you also requesting that Intervest be named operator for this unit?
Yes, we are.
And if the board grants our application today, what would be the address used for anybody making an election under the order entered by the board?
Intervest Operating LLC, 408 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Attention, Kevin Miller, Vice President Land.
Okay. And should this be the address for all communications if an order is entered and elections are made?
Yes, it should.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Any questions from members of the board?
Yes, I have one, Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Reeves, we indicated that there are unknowns in this unit. On page 24 of the application, which is the representation of the order to be recorded, under item 16.1, we've got escrow provisions for unknown or unlocatable persons, which indicates that those will be payable to the First Bank and Trust. Should that not be payable to the Virginia Unclaims property?
I don't think that decision's been made, Mr. Jensen. I think we definitely know with conflicting claims, but it was my understanding in speaking with staff that stays with the operator for a certain period of time, and then it's transmitted to the Treasury Department. Is that incorrect?
That's my question. I've been confused about this ever since we had that memorandum in 2019. Whether we're paying directly. Because you say we have no escrow requirement, but we do have an escrow requirement then. Is that correct? If you have unknown.
Well, I mean, I think it stays with the operator, but it doesn't go into the First Bank and Trust escrow account, I don't believe. Am I mistaken?
We are waiting on direction.
Every time I look at this, I get confused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think in a later application, you do it reverse from this. So that's what confused me.
Well, I know,
I know conflicting claims go to First Bank and Trust if you have conflicting claims, but I thought the unknowns were being directed. We have a substitute AG today. I don't know if he can speak to this or not.
But don't all of those accounts that are going to be submitted to the state and that for their fund, isn't that done by the bank, the escrow agent?
The ones that were already with First Bank and Trust, they submitted petitions to us to disperse to the Department of Treasury, and the escrow agent then would write the checks to the Department of Treasury. But our question has been for quite some time now, whether that money needs to go directly to the Department of Treasury going forward if we have new ones that are unknown. And Mr. Lansing, our Attorney General, is working on that to try to get us an answer. And he's planning to meet with the attorney for the Department of Treasury, and they're going to try to come up with a plan for us to follow. But up until now, we don't really have an answer. And I did ask him this week if he had heard anything, but he's not been able to meet with that attorney yet because she has had some health issues and she's not been working. But he hopes to meet with her as soon as she returns to work, and it hopefully will provide some guidance for the board.
Well, this has just been such an issue of what happens to that money. In 7 years, if it's in escrow account for 7 years, and then that's when it is submitted to the state. But if it's going directly from this
The
company,
question, Ms. Quillen, is back in 2019,
yeah,
there was a memorandum issued by the department by Mr. Lambert at the time that operators were to pay directly to the Treasury Department going forward on any unknowns, unlocatables. And that's what we've been operating under until here just recently. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And now we've sort of flip-flopped again.
Now we're just seeking the AG for guidance, and
So is this the way to handle this now, is to go ahead and have it escrowed into First Bank and Trust? The unknowns, unlocatables until this is resolved finally? Is that what we're saying we need to do? That's the question of the AG's office. We're waiting on direction, I
yeah,
guess.
it's one group is being treated one way, another group is being treated, another way, and that could be conflict somewhere down the road, more than we've seen previously.
Well, excuse me, that's been the problem because, I thought sending it directly to Treasury was inappropriate, but then, I'm still confused about what direction I'm supposed to go in as far as the order and what relief we're requesting. To me, I thought it was always appropriate to deliver those funds to the First Bank and Trust, and then when they become unclaimed, to deliver those on to Treasury. So I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Again, does the AG's office, do you have a recommendation of how we should handle this or not?
I don't have a recommendation for how we should handle it right now. I can call Eric Lansing, who is your usual AG, and see if he has any input regarding this matter, if that's preferable. So if we want, we can put this particular issue on hold, move on, and come back to this particular issue in just a few moments, if that's preferable to the board.
Well, does this show up in other?
It's going to show up in all the rest of the applications probably too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are others that have the same issue.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, let me call Eric real quick and let me see what his input is.
You want to take a quick break for?
Yeah, let's take a break for 10 minutes
Yeah,
or
it
so.
should only be a few. Yeah, 10 minutes should be good.
Let's take a 10-minute break. I have about 10:45, so at 10:55, we'll reconvene, and hopefully
Yeah.
we'll have an answer or some suggestion by then. Okay.
Some guidance of some sort at least, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you all.
So I guess we're back on the record then. Is that right?
yes, I was
Yeah.
recording and we got off, so.
Okay. Hi, Ms. Lansing.
Good morning. Mr. Kuntz invited me into this meeting to weigh in on the question that y'all were just talking about regarding escrow. And I understand the question is about basically how is escrow supposed to work? Is it supposed to involve sending the funds over to the Department of Treasury or maintaining in a bank account or something like that? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So there are two situations where the state code contemplates escrow. One of them is where it's for an unknown or unlocatable party. And the other is if there is a dispute about who the true owner is. And the way those provisions apply work differently depending on what situation you're in. What we have been doing is we have been sending those funds directly to the Department of Treasury's Unclaimed Property Division if the funds are dealing with an unknown or unlocatable party. I'm having a conversation with counsel for Treasury, and I've been having this conversation for months, but unfortunately we haven't been able to make any headway with figuring out what our strategy is or what the best way is to do that, because the counsel for Treasury is out on extended sick leave, or at least the counsel for the unclaimed property division. So right now, we don't really have any updates for you on any kind of procedure. All I can tell you is stay the course with the way we've been doing things, because right now we're satisfied with the way that has been done. And of course, Sarah and other staff are familiar with it. And I believe that it's acceptable to continue as we have been doing.
So I guess the question is, Mr. Scott, you may want to talk about the language is different in some of your petitions. So the language needs to be consistent, I would say, in the petitions you're presenting. So Mr. Lansing, excuse me, the language would be the unknown and unclaimed need to go to that unclaimed department in the state, and then the disputed needs to go where then?
First Bank and Trust.
First Bank and Trust?
To the
What petition are we at?
Number 6.
We are. It's docket number VGOB 2307184266.
Okay. And what paragraph are we at in that petition?
Go to page 24.
Right.
It's not in there.
Can't scroll back. I do that all the time. I have iPads and the tab. Unlocatable and conflicting.
Okay. And so we're looking at paragraph 16.1, right?
Correct.
Yes, I believe that should say the Department of Treasury unclaimed property division.
That's in the order, correct? That's not in the application.
Right, it's on the order, correct.
Okay. And I was doing it like that, and then I was told not to do it like that. So
yeah,
I'll from this point on, unknowns will be Treasury, and conflicting will go to First Bank and Trust, correct?
Yeah, I'd sympathize with kind of the back and forth, because we're kind of finding our feet here with regard to this question, and it'll be a while before we really have a permanent answer for you. Sarah, are you here?
Yes.
Sarah, from your familiarity with our custom of doing these orders, do they typically list a bank, or do they typically list the unclaimed property division?
Well, if it's going to be escrowed, the bank will be listed, and then for unknowns, it'll need to have the Department of Treasury, anything that's unknown or unlocatable. If we're going to follow that, we'll go to the Department of Treasury Unclaimed Property Division, P.O. Box 2478, Richmond, Virginia 23218. That will need to be actually shown on the order. So I can work with Mr. Scott on getting his orders revised.
That sounds good. That would be my advice. And
okay.
You know, I'm sorry that this is a little vague right now. It's a hanging unanswered question. I can't guarantee that the answer won't change in the future. once I talk with the counsel for Treasury, who's been out on extended sick leave. But I think that for now, just staying the course and doing things the way we have been doing it is, one, it's acceptable. It protects the rights of the people involved. And two, it makes sense to keep it the way we have been doing it.
Yeah. Let me just ask a quick question. So we're saying 16.1 in terms of this item, 16.1 for unknown unlocatables should be the unclaimed property division.
That's
And
correct.
then the next item, the next paragraph, provisions for conflicting claimants, that should list First Bank and Trust.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the way I believe we have been doing it for some. Isn't that right, Sarah?
Yes, if you have both on the.
If you have both on the application, okay.
If there's only one or the other, then only the paragraph that pertains to the application.
And the agency which pertains to that respective, yeah, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Thank you.
Happy to chime in. Daryl, thank you so much for subbing for me today.
Absolutely, Eric. I appreciate you coming in when we needed your expert advice, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
If you
okay.
need anything else, just call me in.
Will do.
Fine, thank you. Mr. Scott, does that help?
Yes, sir. That'll take care of it for me for now.
Okay, then. So, where are we? I think you were still giving, testimony in terms of that item. So I
Yes,
guess
sir.
we can continue then. Did that answer all of the board's questions? I think we're okay. Okay, go ahead and continue then.
Thank you.
And again, we
Mr.
do
Ayers, please
appreciate
state your name.
we do appreciate the Attorney General's representatives for their help in trying to get this, answered. Thank you. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Ayers, your name by whom you're employed, your job description, please.
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
And you participate in the preparation of this application, is that correct?
Yes,
What's the proposed depth of this well?
3,100 feet,
And what are the estimated reserves for this unit?
990 MMCF.
You also participate in preparing the AFE, is that correct?
Correct.
And what's the estimated dry hole cost for this unit?
$244,365.
And the completed well cost?
$736,682.
And if the board grants our application today, would it prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect relative rights?
Yes.
That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Okay, questions from members of the board? Okay, Mr. Scott, you can continue.
That's all I have for, on this docket item.
Okay, anything further from board members? Any other questions? Okay, we will entertain a motion for this particular item.
Motion to approve pending the revision that the escrow provisions on the order be completed by the applicant.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratliff.
Abstain.
Okay, it appears that that motion passed, and so that item passed. Okay, we'll move on
Thank
to
you, Mr.
the.
Chairman.
Sure. Let's move on to the next item, which, let's see, let me get reorganized here. That was petition number 6. We'll move on to number 7. That's also petition from Intervest Operating LLC for pooling. The unit is VC-538730. The docket number is VGOB 23-0815-4267. We'd all ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Again, Larry Reeves, Jim Ayers, and Tim Scott for Intervest Operating LLC.
Okay, the record will show that there are no others. Mr. Scott, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reeves, your name, by whom you're employed, and your job description again, please.
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest as a landman.
And you're familiar with this application, is that correct?
Yes,
And where is this unit located?
I'm in the Nora Cobet field,
And how many acres does it contain?
58.79 acres.
And again, Intervest has a substantial portion of this unit under lease, is that correct?
Yes,
Are there any parties respondent listed on Exhibit B3 that we're going to dismiss today?
no dismissals.
And how were the parties listed on Exhibit B3 notified of this hearing today?
Proof of mail, for certified mail, return receipt requested.
And we provided proof of mailing to the board, is that correct?
Yes,
And do we have an escrow requirement for this unit?
no, we didn't.
Thank goodness. Okay. And again, is Intervest authorized to transact business in the Commonwealth?
Yes,
And we have a blanket bond on file, is that correct?
we do.
And if you were to reach an agreement with the parties listed on Exhibit B3, what lease terms would you offer?
$5 per acre per year for a paid-up lease at a 1/8 royalty.
Okay. And you think this is reasonable compensation for a lease in this area?
Yes, I do.
And what percentage of the unit does Intervest presently have under lease?
93.94%,
And what percentage are you seeking to pool today?
6.06%.
Are you asking the board to pool those parties who are listed as unleased on Exhibit B3, is that right?
Yes,
And then Intervest be named the operator for this unit?
yes, sir.
And if an election is made by an order entered by the board, what would be the address used for making any elections?
Intervest Operating LLC, 408 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Attention, Kevin Miller, Vice President Land.
And should that be the address for all communications with an order entered by the board?
Yes, it should be.
That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Any questions from the board members?
Yeah, just the same thing that we had on the prior application on the order on page 21, again referencing the unknowns. You need to make, I guess you have no unknowns on this one either? No unknowns or?
No, sir, we do not.
The order reflects that there are unknowns, but there are no, you don't really even need item 16, correct? You can remove that from the order. There is no escrow requirement.
I'll remove that, yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Scott, you may continue then.
Thank you. Mr. Ayers, your name by whom you're employed, your job description again, please?
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
And you're familiar with this application?
Yes,
And are you familiar with the proposed depth of this well?
yes, it's 2,850 feet,
And what are the estimated reserves for this well?
840 MMCF.
And what are you also familiar with the well cost?
Yes,
So you participate in the preparation of the AFE, is that right?
yes,
What's the estimated dry hole cost for this well?
$297,087,
And the estimated completed well cost?
$783,930.
And in your opinion, if the board grants our application today, would again prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect correlative rights?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Okay, just a second. Sure I have the right item up. Okay, any other questions or any questions from board members? Okay, anything further, Mr. Scott?
That's all I have on this item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do we need a modification of that? I guess we,
Pending the modification of the escrow.
language, yeah, the escrow language, I think Mr. Scott, you said you would adjust that language. I think we didn't have any, what was it?
No one knows.
Unknown.
No one knows
Yeah.
on this one. Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
okay, so we'll modify that language to make it appropriate for, that particular circumstance. So do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
yes,
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
yes,
and Mr. Ratliff.
Yeah, I abstain.
Okay, that item passes. Okay, and we are at number 9, is that correct?
Number 8.
Number 8, okay, let me. Okay. Let me make sure I have the right count here, okay? We're at item number 8, it's a petition from Intervest Operating LLC for pooling. The unit is VCI-504871. The docket number is VGOB-23-0815-4268. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Again, Tim Scott, Larry Reeves, and James Ayers for Intervest Operating LLC.
Okay, the record will show that there are no others, so Mr. Scott, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reeves, again, your name, when you're employed in job description,
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest Operating as landman.
and you participate in the preparation of this application, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And where is this unit located? What field?
Also Nora Cobed Field,
And how many acres does this unit contain?
58.79 acres.
And are we going to dismiss any parties respondents listed on Exhibit B3 today?
Nope, dismissals.
And how were those parties notified of this hearing?
Certified mail, return receipt.
And have we provided proof of mailing to the board?
Yes, we have.
And do we have an escrow requirement for this unit?
No escrow.
Okay. And again, Intervest is authorized to transact business in the Commonwealth, is that right?
Yes.
And there's a blanket bond on file?
Yes.
And if you were able to reach an agreement with those parties listed on B3, what would be the terms of the lease that you would offer?
$5 per acre per year for 1/8 royalty for a paid-up lease.
And what percentage of the unit does Intervest have under lease presently?
93.94% lease.
And what percentage are you seeking to pool?
6.06%.
Asking the board to pool those unleased parties listed on Exhibit B3?
Yes, we are.
And then Intervest be named the operator for this unit, is that also correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And if the board grants our order today, or grants our application today, what would be the address used for making any elections under the order that's entered by the board?
Intervest Operating LLC, 408 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Attention, Kevin Miller, Vice President, Land.
And this would be the address for all communications regarding any order entered by the board?
Yes, it would.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, same comment on page 21 regarding the escrow provisions. That'll be corrected.
That's item 16 there.
So I'll fix that.
Okay, so that needs to be consistent with what we discussed in item number 6 then.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions about okay, you may continue.
Mr. Ayers, your name, your job description again, and who you're employed by.
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
And you participate in the this application, is that correct?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the proposed well depth?
Yes, it's 2,900 feet,
And what are the estimated reserves of this unit?
844 MMCF.
And are you again participating in the preparation of the ASB, is that right?
Correct.
And so you're familiar with the cost, is that right?
Correct.
What's the estimated dry hole cost for this well?
$299,087.
And the estimated completed well cost?
$767,812.
And in the event the board grants our application, is it your opinion that it would prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect correlative rights?
Yes.
That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Questions from the board? Okay, Mr. Scott, do you have anything else?
That's all I have for this one, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve subject to the corrections to the escrow provisions.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Fine, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jensen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
yes,
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratliff.
Abstain, please.
Done, okay, thank you. The motion passed, Mr. Scott, that is approved.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll move on then to item number 9. It is a petition from Intervest Operating LLC for pooling. The unit is V-536907. The docket number is VGOB 23-0919-4270. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this docket number to please come forward.
Mr. Chairman, it's Larry Reeves, James Ayers, and Tim Scott for Intervest Operating LLC.
Okay, let the record show there are no others. Okay, Mr. Scott, you may proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves, your name, your job description, and where you're employed, please.
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest Operating as a landman.
And in this particular docket item, we're seeking to form a unit and to pool interest. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is this unit subject to statewide spacing?
Yes.
And how many acres does it contain?
112.69 acres.
And Intervest does have a significant portion of this unit under lease, correct?
Yes.
Are we going to dismiss any parties respondent listed on Exhibit B3 today?
No.
Okay. And how was notice of this hearing provided to the parties listed on B3?
By certified mail with the return receipt requested.
And we provided proof of mailing to the board, is that right?
Yes.
And we do have unknowns in this unit, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
How were these parties notified?
Published through the Cofield Progress on August 25th, 2023.
Okay, thank you. And we provided proof of publication to the board, is that correct?
Yes, we did.
And again, you provided the board with your ongoing efforts to locate any unknown parties, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And is Intervest authorized to transact business in the Commonwealth?
Yes.
And is there a blanket bond on file?
Yes, there is.
And what are the terms you would offer to anybody who's seeking to lease with you all?
$5 per acre per year for a 1/8 royalty for a paid-up lease.
And what percentage of the unit does Intervest presently have under lease?
52.88%.
And that does include tracts in which Intervest is a fee simple interest owner, is that right?
Yes, it does.
And what percentage of the unit you're seeking to pool?
47.12%.
And with regard to this unit, there's an escrow requirement, is that correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay. And can you please tell the board which tracts are included and what's the issue here?
Tract 7, which encompasses 44.45% of the unit. Tract 9 encompassing 9.42% of the unit. And Tract 10 encompassing 12.82% of the unit. And there is conflicting ownership or leasehold on
whether it's leased or not?
Yes, yes.
So we have Diversified claiming that it is, and then the others claiming that it's not. Is that
correct?
Okay.
The owner claiming there is a conflict in the lease, yes.
Okay, all right. Are you requesting the board to pool these unleased parties listed on Exhibit B3?
Yes, we are.
And then Intervest be named the operator, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if the board grants our application today, what would be the address used for making any elections under an order entered by the board?
Intervest Operating, 408 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Attention, Kevin Miller, Vice President, Land.
And this is the address for all communications regarding this order, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Questions from the board? Okay, I would expect the language
appears to be acceptable in this application on page 29.
Item 16, page 29 then. Okay. Anything further from board members for Mr. Reeves? Okay, Mr. Scott, you may continue.
Thank you. Mr. Ayers, again, your name, by whom you employ, your job description.
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
And you participate in the preparation of this application, is that right?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the proposed depth of this well?
Yes, it's 5,900 feet.
And what are the estimated reserves for this unit?
1,006 MMCF.
And you, again, participated in the preparation of the AFE, is that right?
Correct.
So you're familiar with the well cost?
Correct.
And what's the estimated dry hole cost?
$431,428.
And then the estimated completed well cost?
$938,975.
Okay. In your opinion, if the board grants our application, again, would it prevent waste, promote conservation, protect relative rights? Yes. Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Questions from the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion with regard to this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
yes,
Mr. Prather,
yes,
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratliff.
Abstain.
Okay, the motion passed, and Mr. Scott, this item is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and the next one is item number 10, if I've counted correctly. It's a petition from Intervest Operating LLC for pooling. The unit is V-536906. The docket number is VGOB 23-0919-4271. We'd ask all parties who wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Tim Scott, Larry Reeves, and James Ayers for Intervest Operating LLC.
Okay, and the record will show that there are no others. You may proceed.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Reeves, again, your name, by whom you're employing, your job description.
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest Operating as a landman.
And again, we're seeking to establish a unit and pool the unleased parties. Is that correct?
Correct.
And is this unit subject to statewide spacing?
Yes,
And how many acres does it contain?
112.69 acres.
And are we going to dismiss any of the parties that are listed as unleased on Exhibit B3?
Yes, we are on this one.
And who are those, please?
Hollis and Louisa Bevins, Inez Claire Mullins, Leon Mullins, Francis Mullins Large, and Betty Sue Mullins Roberts.
And we'll be providing revised Exhibits B and B3. Is that correct?
Yes, we will.
All right. How was notice of this hearing provided to the parties respondent listed on Exhibit B3?
Provided by certified mail return receipt requested.
And have we provided proof of mailing to the board?
Yes, we have.
And are there any unknown owners in this unit?
Yes, there are unknowns.
And how were these parties notified?
By publication in the Cofield Progress, date of August 25th, 2023.
And have we provided proof of publication to the board?
Yes, we have.
And you have again provided the board with your ongoing efforts to locate the unknown parties. Is that right?
Yes, we have. Yes.
And those efforts are always ongoing. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Again, Intervest is authorized to transact business in the Commonwealth.
We are.
And there's a blanket bond on file. Is that correct?
Correct.
And again, if you were to offer a lease to the parties listed on Exhibit B3, what would be those terms?
$5 per acre per year for a paid-up lease at 1 acre royalty.
Do you consider that to be reasonable compensation for a lease in this area?
Yes.
Okay. What percentage of the unit does Intervest presently have under lease?
43.31476,190%.
And what percentage of the unit are you seeking to pool today?
56.68523810%.
And we do have an escrow requirement, is that right?
Yes, we do.
We have conflicting claimants again, as we did in the last docket item.
Yes, conflicting on the leasehold.
Okay, and what tracts and percentages in the unit do these encompass?
Tract 2 encompassing 19.10%. Tract 7 encompassing 1.81%. Tract 8 at 4.22%. And Tract 9 encompassing 2.28% of the unit.
Okay. And I believe that that's set out in the proposed order, but I'll double check that with Ms. Gilmer as well. And Mr. Reeves, you asking the board to pool these unleased parties listed on B3?
Yes, we are.
And then Intervest be named the operator of this unit. Is that also correct?
Yes, sir.
And if the board grants our application today, what would be the address to you, party making an election under the order entered by the board?
Intervest Operating LLC, 408 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Attention, Kevin Miller, Vice President, Land.
And again, this would be the address for any communications regarding an order entered by the board. Is that right?
Yes, it would.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Okay, any questions from members of the board? And I'm scrolling down. Do we have Mr. Jansen, I know you're escrow person. Have you?
Yeah, I think the escrow provisions are acceptable.
I think going forward, Mrs. Scott will check those to make sure they're consistent. So, okay.
All right, thank you.
Yes. If you'll continue, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Ayers, your name by whom you're employing your job description,
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
and you participate in the preparation of this application, is that correct?
Correct.
Are you familiar with the proposed depth of this well
Yes, 5,900 feet.
and the estimated reserves for this well?
1,006 MMCF.
And are you also familiar with the proposed, or with the well cost, is that right?
Correct.
And you participate in the preparation of the AFE?
Correct.
And what's the estimated dry hole cost for this well?
$395,078.
And the estimated completed well cost?
$904,605.
Okay. And in your opinion, if this application is granted, it would prevent waste, promote conservation, and protect relative rights, is that correct?
Correct.
That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Questions from the board? Okay, anything else, Mr. Scott?
That's all I have for this one, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain any motion relative to this item.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board, please?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
yes,
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratliff.
I abstain.
Okay, I think we're down to item number 11, if I've counted correctly. Item 11 is a petition from Intervest Operating LLC for a well location exception located in the Pound Quad, Wise, Virginia. The unit is V-536907. The docket number VGOB 23-0919-4272. We'd ask all persons to wish to speak to this item to please come forward.
Again, Tim Scott, Larry Reeves, and Jim Ayers for Intervest Operating LLC.
And again, the record will show there are no others present, so Mr. Scott, you may continue.
Thank you. Mr. Reeves, one last time, your name by whom you're employing your job description.
Larry Reeves, employed by Intervest Operating as a landman.
And you participated in the preparation of this application, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're familiar with the ownership of the minerals encompassed by this unit?
Yes, I am.
And are the mineral owners set forth on Exhibit B to our application?
Yes.
Okay. Who operates the well from which this well location exception is sought?
Intervest Operating.
So Intervest is both an owner and a participant, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And we have unknowns in this one as well, do we not?
Yes.
Okay. How was notice of this hearing provided to the parties listed on Exhibit B?
Notice was provided by certified mail and then the publication in the Coalfield Progress on August 25th, 2023.
And we provided proof of mailing and publication to the board, is that right?
Yes, we did.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Reeves.
Okay. Questions from members of the board? Hearing none, Mr. Scott, you may continue.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ayers, again, your name and your job description by whom you're employed.
James Ayers, Intervest Operating and Landman.
And you're familiar with this application, is that correct?
Correct.
Can you please explain to the board why we're seeking a well location exception for this particular well?
Primarily due to terrain, just limiting us to get a surface location. So this is where we can get it.
Okay. No other location acceptable, is that right?
Is that a fair statement? Correct.
Correct. Okay. What's the proposed depth of this well?
5,900 feet.
And what would be the acreage that would be stranded in the event the application is not granted today?
95 acres.
Okay. And what's the potential loss of reserves if the application is not granted?
1,006 MMCF.
Okay. And again, if the board grants our application, would it prevent waste, protect relative rights, and promote conservation?
Yes, it would.
Okay. That's all I have for Mr. Ayers.
Questions from board members?
Yeah, I have a question here.
Yes, Mr. Jansen?
Referring to the location exception map on page 10, you show the proposed location of the B536907's proposed well. You also show the well that we're seeking the exception to the west, B536906 as a proposed well, but it's actually got a symbol on. Is that well drilled or is it still proposed also?
That is
They are both proposed wells.
They're both proposed wells. Taking that into consideration, it appears that you could move this well to the west into a suitable topographic position that you could meet the statewide spacing as opposed to drilling that well. That way you wouldn't need it if you could move that well. Is there a reason that you can't do that as opposed to the order of the drilling or something else that's affecting this?
If we moved it the appropriate space, it would be in the middle of one of these, I guess, landowners' front yards there. The gentleman that we're putting the 6906 location on, that was a location that was approved by both he and the gas company, moving away from his home for an adequate distance that he felt safe. If we moved it to the west, more towards, I guess, the forks of that road, that would be right in his front yard.
So there's no place even further away from this person? I mean, I'm not exactly sure without, I only see the two houses shown there on the map. Are there more houses out through there that aren't shown on this map?
Without moving, it's a couple thousand feet away.
Let me sort of piggyback on that question. It looks like the proposed 907, what about moving it to the north? It looks like there's also a relatively level area. According to the scale, it looks like 1,000 feet to the north would also give you, or northwest somewhat, would also give you another location. I'm not sure, you still may have an overlap there. Was that not a possibility? I don't know if you know where.
We had looked, I'm assuming you're talking about the little place to the north there that looks like it gives up some terrain to maybe put a location. We
Yes.
had looked at this area. There was some previous mining done in this area. There's quite a large slip in between the hollows of these, I guess, two small ridges.
Yes.
That would probably, well, not probably, it would cause some safety concerns for us and any of our contractors going in that area, because it's quite a large slip.
Okay. Let me just ask you a question. I'm kind of curious. Between those two, there's sort of a blue circle. Does that have any significance? Is that water or? It's blue on our map, but I don't know if it represents a peak or something. It may not be blue, may not intended to be blue, but it just sort of looks blue. It crosses some of the contour lines. And you may not know, having, not being the actual surveyor there, but I was just curious.
Between the two circles?
Yeah, no. Between the two spots that we were talking about.
Just north of that Clark Cemetery. Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Harris?
Just.
There's another one there. I see another one.
Yeah, see that blue circle?
Okay, yeah, I see the other one.
Actually, there's an oval near the northwest of the Clark Cemetery. Is that a pond or something? It's just.
I don't know. Maybe that's supposed to represent a pond. I'm not sure.
It may be. Because there's one, he asked about Clark Cemetery just above the sea to the left, upper left, northwest of that, kind of a blue oval too. Anyway, okay, well, we'll defer to.
Neither of these is a pond. currently.
Okay, I was just curious as to, I know the blue usually represents water. And you can see that in some of the little gorge areas there, but, being a circle, I just thought, well, anyway, okay.
Yeah, due to the stripping out in this area, the strip mining, all of this terrain looks quite a bit different than what this topo map shows currently.
Yes, okay. Okay, any further discussion, board members?
Just to clarify then, it's mostly the surface mining activity as opposed to the changes in topography that are impacting the proposed location of these two wells. Could you sort of speak to the maximization of resource recovery by, excuse me, allowing this location exception to be approved?
I'm sorry, Mr. Jansen, you were kind of muffled sounding, so could you repeat yourself?
Yeah, so I think we've clarified that the reason for the location exception request is due to modifications to the existing topography due to mining as opposed to the existing topography. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then also, can you speak to the statement that we are maximizing the resource recovery by allowing this closer spacing of wells than being able to move them out further away and basically recover more resource by doing that?
Well, I guess the point would be that if we didn't drill this where it was, there's not another location to get in there, so you'd have a void in acres developed between the 536-906 and the existing 530-307.
Okay, and then finally, where these two units overlap, how will payment to those parties be contemplated by the operator?
They'll both be paid proportionately to the production of the well, depending on their interest within each of those units individually.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from board members? Okay, Mr. Scott, anything further?
That's all I have on this docket item, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for this item.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We do have a second. Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board?
Mrs. Quillen,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jansen,
Abstain.
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Prather,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Radley.
Abstain.
Okay, I think we have enough yays for that to pass. So, Mrs. Scott, that item passes. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Thank you then. I think that's all for the items present on the agenda here. So the board will receive an update of board and division activities from the staff.
The only thing that I have for today would be just to let you know that we did not have any petitions submitted for October. We will, as of now, we will not have an October meeting unless we all have.
Because we just want to meet. So we will not have an October meeting unless some emergency arises or whatnot. So then our next should be November, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so no October meeting. And then the board will review the July 2023 minutes for approval. Do we have a motion in that regard?
Motion made to approve.
Okay,
Just a question, how are we supposed to be viewing these? Are we supposed to go online and listen to the whole thing again to review the minutes. That's where we should be reviewing them.
But I can always start printing them off and bringing them. to the meeting.
No, if you will, it helps to have a link, because I always have to chase them down, and I'm not sure how easy that is to do, but it's always hard to find them.
I'll send the link out to everyone.
If you'll do that when you maybe indicate, yeah, okay, sorry. But there is a motion on the floor that the minutes be approved from the July meeting. Is there a second? Someone, anyone?
Second.
Okay, it's a second. Ms. Gilman, would you poll the board, please?
Mrs. Quillen,
Since I did not have an opportunity to read them, I'll abstain.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Jenkins,
Yes.
Mrs. Surratt,
Yes.
Mr. Prather,
Yeah,
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
and Mr. Ratcliffe.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion passed. Okay, I believe that's it. So we stand adjourned. Thank you, everyone.